You know, I've never been much of a cake guy until I had this. The world of cakes stretches far and wide and oftentimes doesn't hit. Maybe the only one I ever think of is carrot cake, but a sticky toffee pudding is another class of its own. It almost sticks to your teeth as you say it. I love it, and I was shocked by how easy it is to make, so let's make this, shall we? We'll start by boiling and pureeing the dates, then we'll make our batter and bake. Then while that's in the oven, we'll make a beautifully rich toffee sauce.
We'll then top it with the simple vanilla ice cream, additional toffee sauce, and serve.
So with sticky toffee pudding, one of the most important components is this. What is that, Josh? What the is that? This is a date, a medjool date to be specific, about 1 cup of these beauties, and you're gonna chop them roughly. I actually like to split them in half first. They're gonna come with pits unless you buy pitted dates. So take their pits out using a chopstick, poke them through, or you can get pre-pitted ones. Honestly, I hate pitting them, it's very annoying. The main thing you wanna do though is look for dates that are very dark and very dry like this. You don't want the really light brown ones, they need to be almost like a dark reddish brown. So I'm gonna cut them all in half, and they're extremely sticky. All right, now we're gonna take those, just sort of slice them the other direction. One of my favorite things about dates is as you cut them, it becomes inconceivably more difficult to cut them because there's so much sugar on your knife. But it's a price I'm willing to pay for one of the greatest cakes on earth. I wish I made this more. I remember the first time I had sticky toffee pudding, it blew my mind so much that I never made it. And I'm glad we're here making it again. These are sliced. Now I'm just gonna run my knife through a couple times just to get them a little finer. You don't need to spend too much time here. That's gonna go into a small sauce pot. Then you're gonna cover that with also a cup of water. Don't worry if it doesn't cover it. Set it to medium high. I'm just gonna break those up a little bit. Now we're doing 2 things. We're rehydrating, but we're also softening because we need to blend this. So let that sit, bring that to a boil, and let it boil for 4 minutes until those dates are incredibly softened, and stir in half a teaspoon of baking soda. Then take a hand blender and blend those as finely as possible.
And that is your date paste.
Cake base. First, the dry ingredients. 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of fine sea salt, and about half a teaspoon of fresh grated nutmeg. Please, always fresh grated. Hugely important for the sake of its flavor. Also smells great. Good God. Now whisk that together until combined. Now the wet. Now this next bit you can do with a stand mixer or electric beaters. You're gonna add 6 tablespoons of unsalted, very softened butter. Start whipping it on high speed. Now once that's a little fluffy, you're then gonna add 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar. Now you're gonna beat that for about 30 to 60 seconds or just until it's light and fluffy. All right, now we're gonna add 2 whole eggs, 1 egg at a time. So we're gonna beat it like medium speed. So we got 1 egg, boom. Beat that in, and the second egg, followed by 1 egg yolk and 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste. You can also just use vanilla extract, that's fine, I just wanted to be a little fancy. Now, we add our cooled down date paste, beat that in, and then you're gonna add half your flour mix, stir that in nicely, followed by your other half, and then just fold that in nicely so you have a nice, smooth cake batter. 9x9 baking dish, little bit of softened butter, and you're just gonna grease that bad boy up, the whole thing. I mean, like the corners, make sure to get every little corner, sides, the whole bottom, the whole surface area. You can use spray oil, that's fine. But the thing with the butter is, as it bakes, the milk solids are gonna kind of brown on the outside of the cake and give it a little bit of crispiness and help get that chewiness. I would not recommend skipping it, but you can, it won't be the end of the world. Oh yeah, now that is oiled up. Now just scoop your cake batter directly in there. I hate baking cakes, if I'm being honest, and this is a surprisingly easy one. And just spread your batter out nicely, evenly, please, all the way to the edges. Make sure the center is even. Basically, the goal is like when you're spreading this out is for it to go edge to edge and have as flat of a top as possible. And I guess when I say flat, I really mean level. If there's some ridges in here, that's totally fine because it will sink down into itself. That is your cake base. Pop this into an oven at 350 Fahrenheit for about 30 to 40 minutes, or until a cake tester inserted comes out clean. The sauce. This is the sticky to your toffee pudding. So 1 cup of light brown sugar into a medium-sized saucepan, 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter, medium heat, 1/3 cup of Lyle's golden syrup or light corn syrup, and 2 tablespoons of Lyle's treacle syrup or molasses. Look, I really recommend that you do the Lyle's. It's kind of the piece de resistance in this. It also feels very English. I don't know if English people do that, but I wanted to do it. So give that a nice mix. You can add the cup of cream at this stage, or you can reduce this just a little bit to add a little extra flavor. Once it's boiling, add 1 cup of heavy cream. Reduce the heat to medium-low and let that reduce for about 15 to 20 minutes, or until it's nice and syrupy and darker. So once that's reduced, it's gonna be very, very, very thick like this, okay? Almost like a dulce de leche, if you will. That's when you're going to add 1 more cup of heavy whipping cream. Increase the heat to medium, just so that starts coming together. Keep constantly stirring. It's gonna look like it's not gonna come together, and then all of a sudden it just magically will. Okay, we're there. So we're gonna leave this at medium heat, and we're gonna let this reduce, stirring occasionally, for another 3 to 4 minutes. But while that's going, we're gonna add, optionally, a light spoonful, about a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste, or whole vanilla beans, or vanilla extract, a generous pinch of kosher salt. Stir that in, let that bad boy cook down. Be generous on the salt that you add. You want this to be a little bit salty. The salty sweet is what makes this great. If you go too skimpy, it's not gonna be as fun. Look at that, cake's all done. We're gonna let that sit. Sauce is almost done. We're in a good spot. I'm gonna leave that on low heat. I've got my beautiful cake over here. Now, either using the tines of a fork or a wooden skewer, you're gonna make holes all over this, and you're gonna puncture all the way down to the bottom. Take it out, and again, we're gonna separate each puncture by 1/2 inch. Got it? Really basic. I wanna hear your fork hit the bottom every time. Just do that on your entire cake. And yes, I'm doing this while it's fresh out the oven. Perfect timing, because our sauce is done and looking lovely. We're gonna pour half our sauce over this, save the other half. You can kind of coax this on by scraping it back to the middle, just to get it to soak into the middle and not just the edges. A lot of the time the cake will kind of rise up a little bit more in the middle. It's totally fine. Just coax it back to the middle. It'll soak in there. This is gonna go back into the oven just until the sauce has been absorbed and is bubbling.
About 3 to 4 minutes. Once that comes out of the oven, slice your cake into 3x3 squares. Add another drizzle of your toffee sauce.
Let that soak in. Top with a nice sphere of ice cream. Drizzle with a little bit more sauce and serve immediately. A little bit of ice cream, little scoop. That's a good sound. Good. This is as good as it looks. Sticky toffee pudding might be one of the most rewarding cakes in human history. Right up next to the greatest cake on earth, carrot cake. When you look at this, there is absolutely a sensual moment in your body. You cannot tell me that doesn't happen. And it is just as sensual to eat as it is to look at. It's a perfect dessert. It's chewy from all the caramel that's soaked into it, but it's also very soft. It's warm, it's buttery, it's rich. You've got the toffee flavors, brown butter flavors. A little bit of that nutmeg is coming through and it's so nice. You could also put cinnamon, you could also do neither. And then of course that vanilla ice cream kind of cools everything down. It's creamy, it's sweet. Instead of adding unnecessary richness, it actually adds almost a cut to the richness while also still being a dessert. I'm adding this to my regular rotation and you should too. But you should also buy our merch, saltysalty.com. Don't forget to check it out and also don't forget to subscribe. Love you so much, goodbye.